Before my last vacation, I was telling people how I wasn't bringing my laptop with me, and the predominant response was, wow, good for you, as if it's completely unexpected that one wouldn't bring their laptop on vacation, because that is no longer the norm. People work on their vacations. We sadly live in a culture that glorifies hustling and always working and always being on, and I hate it. That's not why I started my business, and that's why I'm excited that we get to talk to Maegan Megginson today. She is a licensed therapist and holistic business mentor, and she's been preaching the good word of sabbaticals, which are different from vacations, but we're going to get into that mindset that we don't need to work all the time. And so in today's episode, you're going to learn why sabbaticals aren't just for academics with tenure. We're going to quiet those limiting beliefs that you can't take a sabbatical. And then we're going to get into the finer details of exactly what goes in to taking a sabbatical. I want to thank Maegan for her time. She's an absolute delight. And this was a fantastic conversation. You can find everything that we talk about in the description below or over at streamlined.fm. All right, I'm here with Maegan Megginson, a holistic business mentor and licensed therapist, and I'm super excited to talk about this topic because it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. Maegan, welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So let's dive right into it. What's a sabbatical? I thought that was just like a thing college professors took as soon as they got tenure.
Yes, I love that you started with that because I thought that for a long time too. I thought sabbatical was this like, I don't know, prestigious, pretentious thing that only fancy academic people got to do. And I realized from a place of personal desperation, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that actually sabbatical is for everyone, and that small business owners in particular can really benefit from a sabbatical practice. So sabbatical, root word, Sabbath. Sabbath means to rest. I like to think of sabbaticals as extended time away from our business to experience deep rest, to really reset, recharge, reconnect to ourselves so that we can show up for our business from a place of clarity, purpose, intention, being well rested. I find that people who do sabbaticals regularly are able to operate much more sustainably than people who are on that hamster wheel going, a million miles a minute, 24/7 until maybe one day they can retire. So sabbatical is really a way to step off of the hamster wheel and give your body a chance to reset so that you can be your best self for your business.
Yeah, I think that's really important to think about. I feel like since the pandemic, there's been a counter-cultural movement against hustle culture, but we still see people saying like, yeah, you got to hustle in your 20s and work really hard or whatever. But like, I think of our energy and our bandwidth like a rubber band, and like stretching it will eventually make it snap. But like maybe like taking that sabbatical will let it like reset a little bit, right? And
I
then
love
you're back
that.
at like full elasticity.
Yeah. The sabbatical is a chance to come inward. And I like the image of the rubber band. Yeah. What are we pulling against and when are we relaxing and resting? And then there are seasons where we are really efforting. We're putting a lot of effort out into the world, into our creations. And then there are seasons when we need to come inward and we need to reflect and rest. Winter is a great example of that. Just thinking about the cycles of nature, right? Winter is a natural time in nature when everything goes inward. The energy goes underground. The bears go into hibernation. It's important to remember that as business owners, we're not separate from nature, right? There's not that much different between Joe and a tree. We share a lot in common, and we have to find ways as business owners to create energy cycles inside of our businesses, periods where we can rest, periods where we can step forward and grow. And I think of a sabbatical as a really powerful way to practice seasons of rest inside of my business.
Yeah, I love that. I would just say, like, if you want to know my age, you don't have to cut me open. I'll just tell you my age instead of you having to count my rings. So, there's when we talk about this sabbatical, taking a break, I think there's probably like a bigger cultural thing too that's like, I went on vacation and I didn't bring my laptop, and I got a number of people saying like, oh, good for you. And I really feel like the appropriate response is, why would you bring your laptop on vacation, right? But it's not that. It's like, oh, wow, I can't believe you're going to go like a week without having your laptop in front of you.
Yeah, it's kind of shock and awe. Shock and awe, and sometimes projection too. I think sometimes people feel a bit resentful when they see us taking extended time away to rest, and then they put that onto us and ways that can feel weird. Oh, good for you. Good for you that you like got to take. It's like, I'm sorry, you're being sassy with me right now. Like, what is this energy exchange between us? You're right. I wish we lived in a world where rest and prioritizing life were the default, but we don't. We live inside of capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy, and these are all oppressive systems that have conditioned us to think that we have to hustle and we have to just work our asses off forever so that we can prove our worth, prove our value to the world. Doing something like an unplugged vacation or a sabbatical or a long weekend where you just close the computer and don't think about work, these are acts of resistance, truly. And people around you are going to have a response. But just know that you are modeling for other people that resting and caring for yourself as a business owner is a really healthy thing to do that everyone has access to.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I want to share one story, and then we'll kind of get into how you started on this path towards being a sabbatical advocate, a sabadvocate. No, I don't think that's going to work.
We'll workshop that later, yeah.
We'll workshop that later, yeah. But I remember the first, maybe not the first, but one of like the bigger vacations I took when I still had a full-time job. My first day of vacation, I landed on the plane. I had some time. I checked my phone. And I saw an email from my boss, and it said, "Joe, if you have some downtime," and I don't even know what the rest of that email says. I deleted it. Like I was like, I can't believe I can't believe this, right?
Yeah.
And like the same thing has happened. Like when I was on paternity, like my company was, generous enough to give me like paid paternity,
Awesome.
and a project manager put a meeting on my calendar during that leave. And I was like, hi, I don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, I don't exist until April 9th when I come back. And they're like, but we need, and I'm like, don't exist. You can't need anything from somebody who doesn't exist. So,
I love that you held that boundary.
Really yeah. And they were really important to me. Right. Because in my younger days, well, my relative younger days, because those were younger days too. But, you know, I have seen and subsequently was like taken advantage of for like being that like young upstart, go get 'em sort of thing. And, you know, when I had a girlfriend and wife and kids, like my priorities changed significantly.
Yeah.
So what led you down the path to advocating that people take sabbaticals?
The year was 2018. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to tell you the story like that. But
I was here for it.
Way back, yeah, I know you were like, oh, let's listen to this tale. So way back in 2018, which feels like 15 lifetimes ago. At this point, we've been through so much since then. But 2018, I was in the process of growing my first business. So I started my career as a licensed therapist. And reached that point where I was ready for something more. I was ready. My ambition was kind of busting out of the shell. So I decided to start a group practice, which is like an agency, basically, for therapists, hiring other therapists to see clients within the business container I had created. And I figured out pretty quickly that wasn't the best business model for me. But at that point, I was in it. Sunk cost fallacy. Like I was too far into it to back out of it. But there were so many things that weren't aligning for me energetically. I was really feeling a lot of stress. I was on the precipice of burnout, and I could feel myself really just like on the edge of, I was just about to pass the point of no return. And I was worried that the point of no return would be burning it all to the ground.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get to that point. So I had the idea. I was like, I think I need a sabbatical. And I was like, that's so weird. Like, what even is a sabbatical? And I'm not a professor, and do I get to do that? But I just knew intuitively it was calling to me, like, you need to step away. And this isn't a decision you're making because like you're not going on a great vacation. Like, you have to do this for your health. So I did. I stepped away for, I think it was five or 6 weeks. That sabbatical, it was over the holidays, so that was a little bit complicated. I don't recommend doing your sabbatical over like Christmas or New Year. But I did it over that time, and it was so profound, the experience I had. I had never in my life up to this point stepped away from my obligations entirely for an extended amount of time. And that space really allowed me to slow down, care for my body, kind of get myself back to a healthy baseline, and then start reflecting on what's going on here. Who are you? What are you doing? What do you want? It's an opportunity to reorient yourself to your life. And then by extension, you get to reorient yourself to your business. And when I stepped back into the business after that sabbatical, I really had a deep sense of knowing what changes I needed to make it work better for me, of knowing kind of the direction that I wanted to head professionally myself. There was just so much information I had access to now that I didn't before. And I knew that the sabbatical practice, it needed to become a staple in my life as a business owner. And since then, 2018, I've taken a sabbatical almost every year. And now it's a core part of my business as a holistic business mentor, is working with small business owners, supporting them through the sabbatical process. And I just witnessed, Joe, like over and over again, magic happens when people give themselves permission to step away and meet themselves in a really deep and meaningful way. So now I want it for everyone, because I think as human beings, we deserve to have seasons of winter inside of our businesses.
And like as business owners, like part of the reason, like it's almost like if we had full-time jobs and we had like 4 weeks vacation, we would take them because we'd have them or we'd lose them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I started my business to have more freedom.
Right.
And so a core part of that was like making it so I don't feel like I'm chained to my desk. Because that's counterintuitive to why I started.
Yeah,
right?
I know. And I think about this and talk about this with my clients a lot. I often ask my clients in our first sessions together, take me back in time to the day you decided to start your business and like paint the fantasy for me. What did you imagine life would be like? Why were you making this big, courageous leap into entrepreneurship? And it almost always has to do with, I want more freedom and flexibility in my life. And then sadly, freedom and flexibility are like the first things we give up when we start running our business. They're the first things to go when rubber hits the road. So I do think of sabbatical as an opportunity to really claim that, no, I'm doing this. I'm working for myself. I'm holding the risk of owning this business so that I can do things like take paternity leave, give myself a sabbatical, whatever it is I need to live a well-balanced life. My business is going to pay me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something else you said that I think is really important to repeat, because I would feel like I would definitely stack Christmas vacation with a sabbatical, is don't do it over Christmas or New Year's, right? I think the inclination is like, hey, no one's around anyway, and I'm probably going to take a bunch of days off there, right? So, like, why? I feel like I probably just answered it, but, like, why not? Why not combine Christmas and New Year's with a sabbatical?
Well, I think it's helpful to think about sabbatical and vacation as two totally different things. And often the holidays coincide with more of, like, a vacation time off, right? So when we're taking vacation, we have an agenda, right? Our vacations usually involve other people, and we have lots of plans. We have an agenda. It's going to be a pretty high energy output when we go on vacation. Same thing around the holidays. There's a lot happening. We've got a lot of social obligations. Great. We need vacations. We need that kind of social recharge. We need those joyful experiences. But that is totally 180 different from a sabbatical. Sabbatical is going into the cave, hibernating, being quiet, being alone, finding solitude, reflecting, doing, healing activities. So when we try to overlap the two, when we say like, I'm going to take a sabbatical, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I recommend 4-week sabbaticals for people who are just starting with this practice. And when you try to take a 4-week sabbatical and say, I'm going to take a 2-week vacation at the end of the sabbatical, it's like, well, then actually you're just taking a vacation. And you're not going to really feel fully satisfied with either experience because you're blending two things that don't fit together. So the holiday season is just an example like that. For me, at least, the holiday season isn't a naturally introspective time. It's more of a busy meeting social obligations time. So do yourself a favor and don't try to piggyback one on the other because it's just not going to feel as good as if you really separate them and treat them as two different things.
Yeah, it's almost like saying like I want pizza and I want a chocolate fountain, so I'm just going to dip my pizza in a chocolate fountain. Like that's not going to taste good. As a New Yorker and an Italian, I would strongly advise against that.
I mean, like, would I try it? Yes.
I mean, yeah, I would try it for sure.
I would try it, but yeah, but it would probably be kind of weird. And yeah, right. I wouldn't fully enjoy the chocolate. I wouldn't fully enjoy the pizza. Never the two shall mix. And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. As an aside, I almost said pineapple and pizza, but I know that some people will be very mad at me for that. So
you immediately lose 40% of your listenership.
Yeah.
They're like,
right. So chocolate, normal greasy cheese pizza dipped in chocolate. That's
okay.
Nobody wants
weird.
that.
That's weird. Yeah.
Okay, so this is really good. I agree wholeheartedly. I always feel like I need a recovery day when I get back from a vacation.
Right, exactly.
And like we're taking our kids to Disney World at the beginning of May, and I just timestamped this. Sorry, everybody. But like I'm like mentally preparing myself for what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And it sounds like with a sabbatical, you should almost be a little, I don't want to say bored. Maybe bored is not the right word, but maybe it is. Like you should have a lot of downtime.
Yes, bored is a great word, honestly. I think as a society, we live in the information age. We live in the overstimulation age. We have forgotten the medicine and the magic of being bored. Being bored is a crucial element of the creative process. And as business owners, we are inherently creative people. We are creators. We are creating things in the world. We even if you don't feel like an artist or you don't identify as an artist, I'm going to say you are an artist. You are creating a business. And being bored and having time to sit with your thoughts in solitude and silence is a crucial part of the creative process. I also want people to experience the magic of timelessness, right? To experience in your body, like not knowing what day it is and having nothing on the calendar and having no one expecting anything from you and really just being able to get to know your nervous system and your creative energy in a more free-flowing, intuitive way. That is such a rich way to learn more about who you are. And the more you know yourself as a business owner, the more you're going to be able to create a business that is a true reflection of you. And the more our businesses become reflections of who we are, the less we're going to struggle with burnout. So it all fits together.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've stolen a page out of Bill Gates's book, and I've done like Think Weekends, right? Where I'd go to an Airbnb and whatever.
Love that.
But I mean, that's just a weekend, and Bill Gates is super rich. I can hear listeners through the echoes of time, saying, "That's great," but like I'm a solopreneur. I have coaching clients. I sell courses. I can't just disappear for a month.
Right.
What would you say to those people?
Oh, I have a lot to say to those people. First of all, I get it. I've been there. I'm a solopreneur too. I'm the only breadwinner in my family. It all hinges on me and has since 2016. Wow. So
real strong argument, by the way, because like my wife is a nurse, and so like our healthcare comes from her, and like she makes about half. So like very strong argument happening here.
Yeah, I it wasn't until a couple years ago that I realized, like, I should share this part of my story because this is like really, this is really important that you can do this as the primary breadwinner or whatever your story is. You can do this. So let's take a couple of steps back. What would I say to people who are really in that resistant place? Yeah, first of all, I want to say I get it. I get where you're coming from. I want to acknowledge that it does take financial privilege, time privilege to be able to do something like take an extended amount of time off. That is all true. And also you have that privilege as a small business owner. That is the trade-off, right? Why do we not work for somebody else? Why do we not have a 9-to-5? Because we want freedom and flexibility in our lives. You have that freedom and flexibility. I believe that small business owners have an incredible opportunity to create massive social change because of the agency that we have over our time and our energy. The next step then is just getting a little bit strategic about how you can organize your finances within your business to support you taking time away. And 4 weeks. I know 4 weeks at the moment might sound like a crazy amount of time. But if we really zoom out and think about your entire life, 4 weeks is a drop in the bucket. Most people aren't even going to notice that you're out of the office when you're gone for a month. It's not really that much time. I really like 4 weeks because I find for most people, it takes about 2 weeks for your nervous system to really settle down. It takes about 2 weeks to kind of feel through all of your anxiety and all of your stress and all of your worries. It's all of that kind of yucky, hard stuff is rolling through your nervous system. And it takes about 2 weeks to really move that through and settle down. And then the next 2 weeks are when you get to relax into yourself and really be introspective and reflective and ask some really big questions. So that 4-week marker is effective for a lot of people. Now, if that feels like a crazy, unreasonable place to start, do whatever feels accessible to you. 3 days? Cool. 1 week? Fantastic. This at the core is about intention. How much intention am I bringing to the time that I'm taking away from my business? And if you can only swing 3 days, a long weekend to get started, beautiful. If you infuse it with intention, and the intention being to step away, to breathe, to slow down, to be with yourself, I guarantee you are going to learn something new in that experience that sets you up for success in the future. So meet yourself where you're at, but also if you feel like you're in a place where you can tolerate a bit of a challenge or a stretch, I encourage you to aim for that 4-week sabbatical. A lot of people have to plan it a year in advance, especially if you have a business model that involves a lot of your time, like day to day, right? You have coaching clients on retainer, you have fill in the blank, you have things happening that require hands-on attention on a day-to-day basis. You don't have like lots of passive income coming in, etc. You're going to have to plan in advance. Really get clear with yourself though, like how far in advance do you really have to plan? If you have to plan it a year in advance, great. If you can do 6 months, better. If you can do 3 months, awesome. You probably really need the time now, but be realistic. What is your monthly overhead? This is where we can start thinking about it financially. What's your monthly overhead, including what you pay yourself? That gives you a financial target. You now know how much money you need to start saving up so that when your sabbatical month comes, the money is there. The bills are paid. Your paycheck is the same. That's what I want for you on sabbatical. I don't want you to take an unpaid sabbatical unless you have a partner who has a great job. If you can afford to take an unpaid sabbatical, take it. That's awesome. Yeah. I've never been in that position, right? I personally haven't been in the position where I could do it unpaid. So I have to plan financially in advance so that when my sabbatical comes around, all of the expenses are covered.
Yeah, I think this is a really smart thing to consider. Because we're not just saying like go off and do a sabbatical right now, right?
Yeah.
We're saying like plan for it. Two things came to mind while you were talking. So I mentioned, I think before we started recording, Stephen Hackett of Relay.fm. took a sabbatical last year, and one of the things he talked about when he came back was exactly what you said. Like, it took him about 2 weeks to settle in.
Yeah.
And then he had like 2 really good weeks of like big picture thinking and doing, like being with his family, undistracted and not worrying about like what's happening in Slack. The other thing that I would say is, I know this is different for everybody, but for me personally, I built a business where like, we don't, I don't have the codes. I don't have the nuclear codes. If I disappear, like, a business isn't going to crumble. No one's accidentally including me on a Signal thread, for OPSEC or whatever. So, I purposefully built that business so that I could possibly step away and like, the world's not going to crumble if I'm gone for a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you do something that you feel is really important, well, everything we all do is really important. The world's a big place. We all matter. But like you're saying, I doubt anybody listening to this conversation has the type of business where someone's life is going to be in jeopardy if you step away. I think some of the core fears here, and I'd be curious what like some of your fears are too, Joe, around this. I think some of the core fears about stepping away are becoming irrelevant, right? I think a lot of people think, oh, but if I step away, if I'm not on social, or if I don't publish a newsletter, if I don't go to the networking event, people are going to forget about me. Some new trend is going to come in and I'm going to miss the boat and I'm going to be behind and I'm never going to be able to catch up. I think that the fear of becoming irrelevant is big for a lot of people. And another fear I hear a lot for service providers, people who work primarily with one-on-one clients, is if I quote disappear, which I want to come back to that in a minute, the disappearing. Like if I disappear for a month, like all of my clients are going to disappear too. Nobody's going to want to come back and continue working with me. I'm going to have to start from scratch. And so those are 2 of the fears that I hear most often. The irrelevant piece, like, let's just call BS on that. Like, no, you're not going to, it's 1 month. No one's going to know you're gone. No one's going to care. Like, people do not care about us or think about us as much as we think they do.
Yeah. It's very like, I'm the main character thinking, right? Like, everyone thinks they're the main character in their own story. Yeah.
And in your story you are, but not in everyone else's story.
Right.
You are like maybe tertiary at best for like most other people. Most people aren't going to notice that you're gone. Or if they find out you're gone, they're going to be cool. They're going to be like, cool, that's awesome. Right. Okay, I'll just talk to you literally 2 weeks from now. No big deal. So you're not going to become irrelevant. Maybe if you disappeared for 3 years, okay, that's a different conversation, but we're just talking about 1 month. Not a big deal. The client fear, most people I talk to who have this fear really are holding this frame of like, I'm going to disappear and then my clients are going to feel abandoned or they're going to go find some other provider. I'm not going to have any client. I'm like, well, the problem with that thinking is that you're not disappearing. Like, you're going to give your clients so much notice that this is happening. And what I find for myself and for the clients, the business owners I work with who are doing a sabbatical, is that most clients are actually insatiably curious when they hear you're taking a sabbatical. They're like, what? What is that? How do you do it? What does it mean? They're happy for you to be taking time off. And what you're doing is modeling for your clients that like, this is something you can do too. So you give people plenty of notice and you negotiate with them before you leave about your relationship together. So if you're on a retainer with a client, for example, you negotiate ahead of time to say, okay, we're going to pause your payments for the month of December. We're going to pick back up in January. Will some clients decide that they don't want to come back? Sure, maybe a couple, but I have never spoken to anyone who's done this, who has come back from sabbatical and like every client has disappeared. I don't think that's really how it works.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a good relationship with your clients, right? I've had some coaching clients who didn't need me for a month, right? They paid the retainer, but like we didn't meet, right? And so I think what you're saying is really, really important. A month is not that long.
Right.
January really like proved that I've done a good job setting up like my automations and systems, which we'll talk about like how do we do it. And I feel like I would implement a lot of automations, but January was crazy for me. Like I took the first week off because it was part of kids school. Like because New Year's fell on a Wednesday, the school just decided, well, we'll pick it up on the 6th. And then there were snow days, and then I traveled for a conference, and then I caught the plague that ravaged the school, and then there were more snow days. So, like, as far as, like, working hours in January, I had 20 at best.
Wow.
And I wasn't horribly behind. Like, and no one was like, Joe, where are you? Right?
Yeah.
People were like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that you were sick and traveling and snow. So, like, a month is not that long.
Totally. It's not that long. It feels long because you've been working probably since adolescence.
Right.
And we're conditioned as workers post-industrial revolution that time off is something we have to earn, and it's something that we get in little tiny doses. So we really do have generations of conditioning here that tells us 4 weeks is an astronomical amount of time to take away from your job. But when we zoom out and look at everything in context like we're doing right now, we can see that that's dumb. And 4 weeks actually isn't that long, and everything's going to be okay. And there's no better gift you can give to your clients or to your business than taking time to recharge your batteries and really deeply reflect on what you want to create with your business moving forward. You are better for your clients if you're gone for a month and you come back recharged than you are if you push through burnout. That's when you'll lose clients because you're not doing a good job as a provider.
Yeah. And it was like, that's so apparent if you hop on a call and you're like on the verge of burnout and you're unprepared and like you can't think clearly.
Yeah.
It's so, I felt that recently. Like I didn't make enough time in my week and like drop off ran long and there was a sinkhole and there was traffic. And so like got into my office.
That's pretty
Got
major.
into my office. Yeah. Everyone was okay. Luckily, I think it happened like overnight and it was just like being repaired. But, I like rolled into my office as soon as this call was starting, and it was so obvious how unprepared I was. And like I think I made it up to the client. Like I sent them like an extra long video and did it, but like that's a bad feeling.
It feels
like
terrible.
Like I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
My goal is to teach, and I did it so ineffectively.
I think we don't talk enough as business owners about how bad it feels when we know we're not delivering. Like that feels so bad to know client after client that like they are not getting my best. I'm not getting my best. My best doesn't exist right now because I am so crispy. I'm so burnt out. Yeah. And then the shame that we feel and then the anxiety that we feel. And then we get caught in a spiral where we start wanting to avoid our work because of how bad. No, that's a no for me. And I want everyone to know that you don't have to feel that way. You don't have to stay stuck in those negative spirals. You can step away. You can take care of yourself, create something better.
Which, by the way, those spirals, like I've been in like that. I've had those spirals sometimes where it's been like 6 weeks, 2 months, where I'm just like in a funk and I'm not doing my best work and I don't even want to try to find client work. And so like when you think, oh, wow, burnout could cost me 2, 3, 4 months. 1 month is like an investment to prevent the rest of that time from slipping away, right?
Yeah, especially if you're still paying yourself that month while you're away. It's like, what do you have to lose here? Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm convinced. Hopefully the listeners are convinced.
Yeah.
How do we do it, right? We talked a little bit about figuring out our financial overhead and having discussion with clients, but like, the main questions that I'm thinking about are like, how offline am I? Am I going to come back from a sabbatical to an email inbox of like 1,000 when I try to keep it to like 4? What's it look like practically speaking?
Great question. So, my structure for sabbatical follows the same structure that I use as a psychedelic facilitator. So, I've worked with psychedelics for myself in my own journey and have learned so much from the process of using plant medicines around how we prepare for an experience and how we integrate an experience afterwards. Here's the connection point. Psychedelics create altered state experiences. Maybe you've heard that term before. Altered state experience is just a way of saying that your consciousness is in a state that is not normal. It is different. It is drastically different from the regular flow of your day-to-day life. And one day I realized, years after I had been doing sabbaticals, I was like, oh my God, sabbaticals are altered state experiences. They are extended altered state experiences. You don't even have to do psychedelics. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. Like the sabbatical on its own is an altered state experience because you are creating a drastic change in your regular state of consciousness by removing yourself from your normal working environment. So when I made that connection, I realized that the best thing we can do to have a positive experience on sabbaticals is to give ourselves structure. So I think about sabbatical in 3 phases: preparation, the actual sabbatical experience, and integration. Preparation is everything you are going to do before your sabbatical begins. And this is when you're going to answer those questions that you just asked, Joe. What is my structure going to be for sabbatical? How online or offline am I going to be? Where am I going to be? You get to answer all of these questions. I do recommend being totally offline from any place that triggers your brain to think about work. Absolutely, I recommend no email.
Yeah.
No email. The second you get into your inbox, whoop, your brain's thinking about work again. But you have to set your own boundaries with this. When I'm on sabbatical, I usually find somebody to do like a weekly inbox check for me just to make sure there's no like emergencies in the inbox. That helps calm me down.
Yeah.
I feel a little less stressed, a little less worried about it because I know somebody's got their eye on it.
Yeah.
But you have to set your own boundaries. So think about what kind of experience you want for yourself. And I also want you to think pre-sabbatical about what kind of support might you need during your sabbatical. Some people have never spent time with nothing to do. You know, they've never just like met themselves in this way, and it feels really scary. So what do you need? Do you think you need to be meeting with a therapist during this time? Do you want a coach? Do you want someone like me who's helping you actually move through the sabbatical experience? Do you want a sabbatical buddy? Maybe a colleague who's doing the sabbatical alongside you? What kind of support do you need to feel contained and really held during your sabbatical experience? Make your own rules. That's where we begin. Does that make sense? Or do you have like more questions about that?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so you don't want it to feel like solitary confinement, right?
No,
like
not unless you want that.
Right.
Sometimes I want that.
Sometimes I want that. I know.
Yeah.
I tell when my daughter says she's bored, I say I would kill to be bored, and then I think I could kill and be bored in prison. Less than ideal, though. I'd miss.
Less than ideal for sure.
Yeah. But I like that you kind of get to design it. I had a couple of thoughts around implementation. That's where my brain always goes.
Love that.
Because so when we did a 2-week honeymoon when my wife and I got married. We're a good Catholic couple, and so we figured this would be our last big trip before kids, and we were very accurate with that prediction. But I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't even bring my primary phone. I brought like a burner phone essentially. And so like I had a friend, you know, I managed websites at the time, and I'm like, hey, if something like you've got the keys to the kingdom, if something goes down, you'll be shocked to learn that nary a single email about someone's website came in those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, how'd it go? He's like, nobody said anything. And I'm like, great. So I like that. I thought, you know, I get some like email newsletters and stuff like that, but our devices, depending on how much you want to have your device, allow us to draw pretty strong boundaries. So like I have like a personal focus mode on my iPhone where I only see my personal email. I would probably want to avoid that too. I've just like given my email address out to so many people. And so I like what you said about having someone like check in on the inbox every so often. And then, yeah, disconnecting feels like a really hard thing, right? Like I'm a news junkie. I have, in the last 3 months, we'll say, have reduced my news intake. So I only get like the broad strokes. But like I also have friends who text me, can you believe this? Or my dad's like, what, can you believe that? And I'm like, I'm actively trying to not even think I should believe this.
Yeah.
So I think there's like, as far as how do you communicate, like my parents are boomers, right? And I obviously would want to talk to my parents in that month, but like, how do I communicate to the family and friends and like, hey, I'm going on a sabbatical. I'm really trying to like reduce my news intake or reduce my work intake. Like, what does that look like? Or am I overthinking it?
Well, it sounds like you just did it. Yeah, I think you're overthinking it. I think you're overthinking it with the disclaimer that if you are a person who's not setting boundaries in your life right now, let's be realistic about how many boundaries you're going to set before you go on sabbatical, right? Boundaries are, what's your relationship with boundaries overall in your life right now? Would it be totally weird and out of the blue for your friends and family to have you say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Here are my boundaries. Here's how you can support me during this time. Are they going to be like, what? What are you talking about? Okay, then, we might want to start a little bit smaller than that. But if you're someone who does have a practice of telling the people you love what you're up to and what you need, then what you did was perfect. I'm taking a sabbatical. Here's what that means. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how you can support me during that time. So I really like, and lots of things in life, sabbatical in particular, framing boundaries for the people we love as here's how you can support me, right? It's not just like, here's what you are and aren't allowed to do. It's, Joe, here's how you can, I'm doing this thing. Here's how you can support me. I'm really going to try to spend the week being pretty unplugged. So you can support me by not sending any news articles to me during this month. And I really appreciate that in our relationship, we can talk about current affairs and we keep each other plugged in. I really like that about our relationship. But for this month, that's a hard no for me. Can you support me by not sending me any news articles next month?
Yeah.
And it's like, get you in on it. People that love us love being a part of our healthy lives. So when we can ask people for their support and then be really clear about how they can support us, usually they're down. If they're not down, I might encourage you to just think about whether or not that relationship is actually serving you in a broader way. But most people who love you are going to be down to support you in ways that you ask to be supported.
Yeah. That's really good. Reaffirmment. It's a reaffirmation. That's probably the right word. Because I think it's like hard. Like, we let our insecurities get the best of us a little bit and say
Totally.
oh, my dad's 72. He's going to be like, sabbatical. What?
Yeah. And he might.
And he might. But he would, just like when I started my business right out of college, he was like, business, what? But he still supported me, right? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to understand what you're doing because so few people do this in our culture. So few people take extended time away. That's why I like to frame this as an act of resistance against our culture at large. That when you are taking a sabbatical and you are then telling the people in your life that you're doing this, you're going to get a lot of confused stares. What? Yeah. Why are you doing that? Some people might even push back. They might be sassy with you. You're Teflon. You just let it wash right off of you. You are doing something drastically different, and people, when they see you doing it, are going to have to adjust their whole worldview to make room for the new reality that maybe people like them and like you can take extended time away. So just be ready for that. Be ready for that. This is also why I always say don't sabbatical alone. Don't take a sabbatical in isolation, because this is a crazy experience that most people in your life are going to have no familiarity with. So be really clear about the support that you need. Who do you need in your corner? Is there a community of business owners you can lean on who are having similar conversations like this? This is why I started my podcast, because I was like, we need to have touch points as entrepreneurs with more people who are having these sort of out of the box conversations so that when we're doing this work in our own lives and businesses, we don't feel crazy, right? We need to know that we are supported by people who get what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I know we're coming up on time. Your show is called Deeply Rested, so I'll link that in the description below and over at streamlined.fm. So that was prep. Let's talk experience and integration, right? Like,
so
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, like, when I hear experience, like when I hear sabbatical, I think, like, my ideal sabbatical would be like a cabin in the woods.
Love that. I love a cabin in the woods if that's in the cards for you. You can also just do it from home. So this is, again, one of those places.
More realistic for me.
More realistic.
Yeah.
In maybe budgetary, whatever. It's like, this is another one of those places where your financial constraints are going to help you decide what this experience is like for you. I haven't yet done a sabbatical where I have left my house. I do love that vision. Maybe I'll do that next winter, like cabin in the woods. Love that. Nice. You can do it at home, right? You don't have to make it fancy. But during that preparation phase, you're going to decide what your structure is, what your rules are for yourself, what your intention is. So that is key. You have to have an intention for your sabbatical. That intention is going to be your focus point, because we don't want you just to have 4 weeks where you feel totally aimless. Mm-hmm. That's not super helpful. So your intention might be to recover from burnout. It might be to get clear on my next direction. It might be to really understand why my work isn't feeling fulfilling for me right now. Could be anything, but like, pick an intention, clarify it, and then hold on to it. I want you to touch it every single day while you're on sabbatical. Think about it, create art about it, write about it, talk to friends about it over coffee. Like, that intention is going to guide you through that 4-week experience. And then we get to integration. And this is the most important part of the sabbatical experience. The most important part of sabbatical is what happens when sabbatical is over. Because if sabbatical ends and you jump right back into the life you were living before, and you don't take time to really weave what you learned from sabbatical into your actual life, it will all be for naught. And I don't want that for you, because that really sucks. You have to integrate. So when I'm coming back from sabbatical, I like to schedule a week that's really a light touch week in my business. Like, that week, really, I'm just cleaning out my inbox, taking time every day for integration. So I'm really writing down and thinking about, what do I want to change? What needs to be different? What did I learn during sabbatical that I don't want to forget? What's important to me now that I need to weave in to the infrastructure of my business moving forward? This integration week is your time to really crystallize and clarify what changes are you going to make because of what you learned on this sabbatical. And then that integration continues literally forever, right? Forever, moving forward. You are always integrating what you're learning about yourself into your business. And you have to make sure that there is time in your schedule to do that work, right? We get burnt out because we're so busy that we don't have time to pay attention. You have to have time in your business to pay attention to how you're doing, to what you need. You got to have that creative space to think of new ideas and to be able to make changes. That is all part of that sabbatical integration process.
Really, really love this. Because first of all, it's like, there's no one right way to do a sabbatical, right?
Correct.
You know, like you said, I would not, I mean, like, if I were to take a sabbatical, right, my gut instinct would be, don't go down to though my laundry room is next to my office, so I'll have to pass by my office.
Same. Close the door.
But, you know, yeah. I have 3 small kids, and so I'd want to be there and more present for them. And so it's not like I could completely remove myself from the day-to-day life of that stuff. But if when they're at school, happily they are all in like full-time school now.
Love that for you.
Thank you. You know, when they're in school and my wife is at work, you know, I can see myself, I have like a shed. some man cave. I don't know if that's like a okay term still, but I call
I think
it the
it's
man
okay.
cave.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
You're a man and you have a cave. It's your
I'm
man
a
cave.
man and I have it. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And like, yeah, exactly. So I'd probably spend a lot of time out there, so it'd have to be summer months. But I would really do a lot of not in front of my computer thinking about where is my business, what are my goals for, or maybe that's not right, right? Should I not be thinking about business at all?
I like going into my sabbatical with just one intention.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
then I allow myself to be surprised by where my energy shows up. So there are some sabbaticals when I don't think about it once. Like what I really need is a break. I need to not think about it. And that's that magic of boredom that we talked about earlier. Trusting that even when you're not working on your business or thinking about your business, your subconscious is doing a lot of work on your behalf. So just because you're not thinking about it actively doesn't mean that your whole system isn't working some stuff through. But I've had other sabbaticals, Joe, where I feel like so juiced up about my business that like I'm just an ideas factory and it's like coming through me and I'm writing it down and I'm brainstorming. So permission granted to be flexible with yourself. What we want to make sure is that you're not doing anything because you feel like you're supposed to.
I see.
Right? I don't want you to feel like you're supposed to do big brainstorm on your business during sabbatical. I want you to give yourself permission to just be and to notice with no expectations, with no to-do items on my checklist, what naturally rises to the surface for me, and then give yourself permission to trust that flow and see where it takes you.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? As you were talking, I was reminded of an episode of 30 Rock. Have you watched 30 Rock?
A little bit. Yeah, not all of it.
Okay.
Though.
So like there's one day where like Jack Donaghy, Alec Baldwin's character, is putting in his office. And Liz Lemon, Tina Fey's character, comes in and says, "Is this what you do all day?" And he goes, "I'm working, Lemon. It doesn't look like it, but I'm trying to solve a big problem. And so I'm mindlessly putting," right? And it was like very, really, that episode really stuck with me. And so, yeah, maybe my intention is just, like consume content outside of my zone of genius, right? Like read more books that I wouldn't normally read or something like that. And then kind of see where my brain takes me.
I love that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Which is nice. I've lost my morning reading time because of the dog that we were talking about before. Long-time listeners will know that we got a dog and the
been
dog
complicated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So so I mean that makes me want to take a sabbatical in a few months if I can.
And also permission granted to change your mind. Right. So like maybe because that's happened to me a bunch of times where I start the sabbatical with the intention to, read a bunch of books. And then as I'm relaxing into the space, I realize I have zero desire to read those books.
Really feel like it.
I don't really feel like it. So if that happens, if whatever you thought you were going to do, if you have to push or force it, surrender, let it go. Ask you, be like, okay, interesting. That obviously wasn't actually what I needed. Can I just go for a walk and just kind of ask myself, well, what do you actually need?
Yeah.
If it's not what you thought, what might it be instead? And listen, this is the practice on sabbatical. You are practicing listening to yourself. And it's really hard to listen to ourselves in the busyness of our day-to-day lives because there's so much noise. Literally and figuratively, there is just noise coming at us from every single direction. And it's really hard to hear. It's like trying to hear someone whisper in your ear when you are like in the middle of a rock concert. You can't hear. So when we're on sabbatical, you are giving yourself space to be in silence so that you can hear with, no questions asked. Like you can hear the voice of your own intuition. So trust that once you're there, and you're taking deep breaths and you're listening, you're going to know exactly what to do.
That's great. It's it should be frictionless. That's something I always say. Like if like you said, if you are forcing yourself to do something, then that's not in the spirit of the sabbatical. And I like that because sometimes I don't feel like reading. Right? Sometimes I feel like watching Friends because I've watched it 1,000 times. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Awesome. This has been amazing. I feel like we covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that we didn't cover that I should have? I've run through my list.
Let me think. No, I think we covered a lot of ground. I think I'll just circle back one more time to say, like, if this vision feels a million miles away for you, right? If you're like, this sounds great, but it's not for me. I can't do it. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. Whatever the resistance is in your mind, I honor that and respect that and encourage you to start wherever you can start. And if that's a long weekend where you try some of these principles, you set the intention, you have the experience, you give yourself a day of integration afterwards, start there, see what happens, prove to yourself that you can do this. You can make this fit into your life and business. Work your way up gradually to the full 4-week experience. Meet yourself where you're at.
I like that. And I almost said double click, and I hate when I say that. I don't like that. I will reinforce that by saying I think it's easier for me to visualize because I've taken like the think weekends. Yeah. And so I can see what that looks like. Even like last night, I was sitting at my dining room table and like I hadn't been as productive because I had like a doctor's appointment and I just started going to the gym again. And I was like, okay, I got to work. And I'm sitting at my dining room table, kids are in bed, pen in hand, staring at blank page going, what am I doing right now? And I just like closed my notebook and I went to bed. Like that. I'm like, I'm willing myself and I don't even know what I'm willing myself to do here.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm supposed to do it. So listen to yourself. I love that.
Listen to yourself. Also, Joe, I just have to say, I've never heard anyone say, I'm going to double click that before. And personally, I like it. So I think maybe you should keep it in the rotation.
All right, sweet. Good to know. I just like, I always think of like, it's not my mouse that I currently use. It's like the mouse that came with like the gateway computer that had like Windows 98 on it. Maybe I'm like dating myself now, but yeah. All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to double click that.
I appreciate it. I'm going to double click that. Amazing. Maegan Megginson, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Thank you for having me, Joe. This was such a great conversation. I'm also very excited to learn more about automation from you because I feel like that's a place where we can really make sabbaticals more accessible too, is more automation. And that's a weaker spot for me. So I'm thrilled to learn more about that from you. And yeah, if you listened all the way through this sabbatical conversation, first of all, thank you. I'm so grateful that you took the time to listen to this conversation. That alone is such a testament to how you want to care for yourself more. And that's such a gift. And if you want more conversations like this about the intersection of well-being and entrepreneurship, I would love for you to check out the Deeply Rested podcast, where we talk all about this and a whole lot more. And you can also join the Deeply Rested newsletter at deeplyrested.com/newsletter.
Awesome. Now you're going to have to go and buy the domain deeplyrestednewsletter.com.
Yeah, shoot. Oh, that's not a bad idea. I'll do that.
Yeah, right. I promise I won't buy it. And
thanks,
you'll buy
Joe.
it before this goes live.
That's right. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I will link to all of that and everything we talked about in the description for this episode. You can also find all of the show notes and every episode of the Streamlined Solopreneur at streamlined.fm. Thanks so much. Maegan, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. And until next time, I hope you find some space in your week.